This is Paw Print, an animal rescue community, episode 25, and our third episode of Greyhound Week, a total of 4 episodes dedicated to greyhounds. I'm Harold Rhee.
I'm Nancy Rhee. Today's guest is Lucienne Bouvier. Lucienne is a physician in the Northern California area, and today she's going to share 3 rescue stories: Snowy the cat, and the greyhounds, Cricket and Thor.
She adopted Cricket and Thor through Golden State Greyhound Adoption, also known as GSGA. She mentioned Stu Homer, co-founder of GSGA, who was our guest on episode 24. If you want to learn more about Lucienne and see some wonderful photos of Snowy, Cricket, and Thor, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/25. That's the number 25.
I am the mother of 2 wonderful boys. My older son is 20 and my younger one is 17, and I couldn't be more proud of them. They are both wonderful young men. I'm an OBGYN and I work at Kaiser Permanente at Milpitas, and I also work in the hospital in Santa Clara.
Maybe let's start out with your role as a mother.
Absolutely. If I had to say what's the best thing that you ever did in your life, my sons are the best thing in my life that I could imagine.
If you're an artist, they're your masterpiece, right?
Absolutely.
As a doctor, what do you enjoy about being an OBGYN, and what are some of the challenges?
There are a couple of things that I totally enjoy. Probably the most important thing is that I can connect with women who come from a variety of backgrounds. I get to share a part of their life in a way that nobody else can. I am there for a young woman who is, thinking about becoming sexually active, someone who has just become pregnant, someone who gets the diagnosis of cancer. I am there to deliver a baby, whether it's a normal birth or whether it's a cesarean. I get to be with people during some very, very important parts of their life. That's very exciting.
It's amazing, all the different aspects.
I think most people don't think about that. This is totally true. To be so totally connected with other people is so remarkable.
Why don't we pivot to a different passion that you have, in addition to parenting and being a doctor?
I've got 4 rescued animals, 2 dogs, and I have 2 cats. My mom has a little cabin. It's not too far from Yosemite. Some years ago, she was really discouraged because the people who owned the property next to her had left. They'd picked up a cat. They left the animal after they moved away. They needed to move away. And so this kitty was going on my mom's property and hiding underneath some of the structures that were there. When our family went up to stay with her, she said, "Okay, can you help us with this?" Of course, my sons were happy to say, "Okay, let's bring her home with us." I wasn't entirely sure, but there is a no-kill shelter in San Jose. And that's what my mom was saying, can you take the cat home, put her in that shelter? But it didn't take us very long to fall in love with her. This was a cat who I totally rescued because this was an individual who we were afraid would become dinner for a coyote, but she didn't. She's been my companion for many years now. Her name is Snowy, and we have had her for about 8 years.
What makes Snowy special in your eyes?
She was an animal who had been abandoned, and we did rescue her, and that makes her very special. The other thing that makes her special is that she's my sweet, beautiful princess kitty, and she loves me.
What are some of the best moments spending time with Snowy?
My most wonderful, perfect moment happened a couple of weeks ago. I was napping in bed. She put her face along my face while I was, napping. And so I didn't want to move because I had my sweet kitty there with her face on my face. And I didn't want to move because it's such a wonderful thing to have an animal that connected with you.
You hate to say it, right? It doesn't happen that often.
It doesn't happen as often as I'd like, but that's okay. They're animals. They choose their own times.
What kind of advice would you give as far as finding a cat in the local neighborhood or going to a shelter?
If you're thinking about a cat, I don't think you need to get a certain breed. It's the individual cat, him or herself, who is important. It doesn't matter what breed. It doesn't matter where you get them from.
Any other animals that really inspire you?
I have 2 retired racing greyhounds. The one who I adopted first is Cricket. She was 2.5 when I adopted her. 2010, probably middle of the year, who I adopted her. About 6 months later, I adopted my other greyhound, Thor, who was, of course, a retired racing greyhound.
How did you get inspired to adopt a greyhound?
When I was a child, and, that was some years ago, I was totally fascinated with greyhounds. I've been very knowledgeable about the plight that they have. Once they're not racing anymore, they are done. These very sweet, loving animals end up being put down because there is no place for them to go when they're done with their racing. I've had cats for most of my life. Almost 10 years ago, I started thinking about getting a dog. And I did one of those online internet things, pick your perfect dog. Amazingly enough, the greyhound came up as the dog who would fit my lifestyle the best. So I started looking to see, who's the closest greyhound rescue. GSGA came up as the closest one, the most inspiring one. I called Stu. I talked to him for quite a while. So Stu and I discussed what it's like to have a racing greyhound as a pet, because greyhounds, and indeed racing greyhounds, have a very different history and background from your average rescue dog. One of my pre-expectations had been that greyhounds require a lot of exercise in the way that, racing horses are. But I was so surprised to find out that they don't require a lot of exercise. They don't bark much, shed a lot.
Yeah, sounds kind of low maintenance. What have been the real joys or surprises that you've experienced rescuing these dogs?
That is a wonderful question. My dog Cricket, she's the one who I first adopted. Cricket helped me be more involved in taking good care of myself because she required walks, going to places where I could connect with nature. And to me, that's a huge blessing. I adopted Thor about 6 months after I adopted Cricket. One of the things that inspired me was that one of the women in GSGA who contacted me has a dog who's a therapy dog. And that sounded like such a really excellent, fantastic thing. So when I wanted to adopt another greyhound, I was looking forward to getting a dog who was outgoing and gentle, who was easy to introduce to other people. And that's when I got my dog Thor. Thor has completed everything that's necessary to become a therapy dog at our local humane society. And so for the last few years, Thor and I have been a therapy pair. We work at the main library at Fremont. We work in the Read to Dogs program. Thor and I have been available for the last few years for these sort of things. I guess I have to say that Cricket was the dog who saved me, and Thor is the dog who I want to help introduce other people to save themselves and maybe more greyhounds.
Any sort of special moments that you've shared with either Cricket or Thor?
One of the things that reminds me and encourages me about greyhounds is that they seem to be very sensitive to your emotions. When I feel like I'm down or unhappy, Cricket comes and she's there to give me a doggy hug. She's there to put her nose in my face. If I need an animal/person to comfort me, she is there to tell me that I'm here and I love you. And that's totally amazing. Absolutely adore my dog Thor, and the special moments that he gives. Anytime I'm walking my dogs and there are people who are amazed to see the greyhounds, because most people have not had access to greyhounds. Thor is a total ambassador. He is a dog who, if you want to come and pet a greyhound, if you want to see what they're like, Thor is totally open to that. He is so welcoming of anyone who wants to show their interest.
Any stories that you remember, one particular person that Thor connected with?
Well, there is one story that comes to mind. I live close to the Alameda Creek Trail, and I have taken my dogs on there for many walks. There was a woman who I used to see fairly frequently who was totally enamored of my dogs, and she eventually came to say to me that at first she was thinking that her role was to adopt an animal, but then she started thinking about it and she realized that her role is to encourage me to do what I needed to do to make Thor a therapy dog, to encourage me to put my dog in a place where he could help other people. And that was a very transformative moment for me. It totally inspired me to make him be evaluated and checked out as a therapy dog.
I told you how impressed I was with how enthusiastic, positive, really dedicated the Greyhound community and their rescuers are.
It's amazing to me the passion that is shown by the people who have rescued these very precious dogs. What amazes me about the GSGA group, we love our animals. We're silly dog people, and we have our, silly expectations, the things that we love about our animals. I have never seen a group who is so dedicated to this particular breed or any other breed. It's amazing to me that I'm still part of a community where if I have a question or a concern, I can just post on Facebook or Yahoo or whatever and say, okay, what do you guys think about this? And I get information from so many people. It's very easy to contact other people who have more experience. A couple of years ago, I left my dogs in the care of someone who had a dog, but only for the first time. And she wasn't completely knowledgeable about dogs. She was thinking, just give the dogs bones and they're going to be very happy. And greyhounds have a very delicate jaw and they have very delicate teeth. 1 or 2 days after she had cared for my dogs, I found a tooth in the bed of one of my dogs.
Whoops. Okay.
Yeah. And my consideration was, okay, is this normal? What do I do when one of my dogs loses one of his teeth? This does happen. And it happens when greyhounds get an actual bone as opposed to a nylabone or one of the other chew toys that are available. One person said, at least you don't have to pay for having that tooth removed, because evidently some greyhounds have issues with losing their teeth. So it was very reassuring to have what things I should be concerned about, what things I can just accept. I can't say how much the connection to this group of dog owners has been as far as helping me care for my animals.
For those who are interested in greyhounds, what kind of advice would you give these folks? Greyhounds
are probably the lowest maintenance dogs that you can consider. If an ambulance comes by with a siren, unlike other dogs, my dogs don't react to that. I have 2 cats. My dogs don't want to eat them. My dogs don't shed a lot. Not the type of dog who jumps on you when you arrive home. Very affectionate, but not aggressive with their affection. They don't bark a whole lot, which is amazing. They don't require a lot of attention, but they are happy to get any attention that you want to give to them. If I just say, let's go for a walk, the next thing I know that I've got the dogs around me, it's time to take them for a walk. One of the wonderful things about owning a dog is that they get you to go out and exercise yourself. I need to go out and walk them a couple times a day. If you want an active dog, a greyhound probably isn't the type of dog that would be the animal that you throw a ball to and they'll fetch and they'll come back to you. But if you want a dog to run with you, to walk with you, they are lovely, lovely dogs. They are one of the few large breeds who is good for someone who lives in an apartment. And that's me. I live in an apartment and I have 2 of these dogs in spite of the fact that they are large dogs. I can leave them for hours without them getting upset or needing any attention. Of course, I need someone who comes to take them out for a walk and stuff like that. It's really amazing to me that these dogs fit my lifestyle however I need them to fit my lifestyle. That is a truly amazing thing about this breed.
We just want to say thank you to Lucienne Bouvier for sharing her stories, and to Snowy, Cricket, and Thor. Join us on our final episode of Greyhound Week with the artist Nina Huang, with her 2 greyhounds, Apollo and Pebbles. If you want to learn more about Lucienne or Golden State Greyhound Adoption, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/25. If you want to look up me or Nancy on social media, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Look for This Is Paw Print, one word. You can also follow me on Facebook. It's Harold Ree. I can promise you I don't bark, and I like to take long naps. If you want to listen to more episodes, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes to get our latest episodes immediately. We just want to say thank you to all of you for sharing your stories. And we'd like to welcome new listeners in Newport, Rhode Island, Gary, Indiana, as well as Hong Kong. Remember that you share a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time on Paw Print.
Paw Print is a production of EVER Education.
You can't handle the truth.
Woohoo!